A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew.
Glory to you, Lord.
When Jesus saw the crowds, he went up the mountain. And after he had sat down, his disciples came to him. He began to teach them, saying, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are they who mourn, for they will be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the land. Blessed are they who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be satisfied. Blessed are the merciful, for they will be shown mercy. Blessed are the clean of heart, for they will see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God. Blessed are they who are persecuted for the sake of righteousness, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are you when they insult you and persecute you and utter every kind of evil against you falsely on account of me. Rejoice and be glad, for your reward will be great in heaven." The Gospel of the Lord. How many of you want to be happy? The rest of you aren't sure, I guess. It's a natural desire to be happy. And I believe God wants us to be happy. And so that's what today's gospel is really about. Becoming happy. Now, just a little bit of background on today's gospel. It's the beginning of what's called the Sermon on the Mount. It's called the Sermon on the Mount for a couple of reasons. One, it's kind of on the side of a hillside in Galilee. At least that's the traditional place where Jesus gave this teaching. It's 3 chapters long in the Gospel of Matthew. We're going to be going through it for the next 5 weeks. We won't complete the Sermon on the Mount, but we're interrupted by Lent, Easter, and a few other feasts, and we'll pick it up a little later in the Gospel of Matthew. So we have a good kind of period of time in the Sermon on the Mount. And it's also called the Sermon on the Mount because it's a reference really to sort of the old law and the new law of Christ. The old law, Moses went up the mountain. He went up Mount Sinai, and he came back with the 10 Commandments. Here in the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus gives us kind of the expanded version. And so he'll quote Moses and those 10 Commandments a number of times. We'll say, like, "You have heard that it was said, 'You shall not commit murder.' I say to you, do not grow angry with your brother or sister. You have heard that it was said, 'You shall not commit adultery.' But I say to you, whoever looks on a woman or man with lust has committed adultery already in their heart." So we have this new law proclaimed by the new Moses, Jesus. The Sermon on the Mount. It also gives us a little inkling of who we are in participating in listening to and responding to this message. The very first words of our gospel, it says, Jesus was among the crowds. He went up the mountain and his disciples came to him. Little reference to really who we are. There are thousands of people in North Ridgeville today who are not hearing what you're hearing. They're not in a Catholic church or perhaps in no church, and they're not hearing this message. But you, in a sense, are those who came up the mountain. For some people, it felt like a mountain getting up those steps. But you've come to hear the message of Jesus Christ, be nourished by him in the Eucharist, and then go forth to leave here to live the message. In a sense, this is sort of the locker room. And Coach Jesus is here giving us his message so that we can go out onto the field and live the gospel. That's what we're about. So Jesus called his disciples, his students, his special learners, those who have a particular relationship with him, to hear the gospel. And so that's what we're about here today. Now, the first part of today's gospel is called, first part of the Sermon on the Mount is called the Beatitudes. because each of these 9 phrases begins with the word blessed. And the word blessed in Greek and in Hebrew, it has a lot of different kinds of shades of meaning. It can mean fortunate, and it can mean happy. So these are the keys to, in a sense, being blessed, fortunate, and happy as a follower of Jesus. So I'm not going to cover all 9. Here's your chance to say amen, brother. But I want to talk about one in particular. It's one I've talked about before, but I think its message is ever more important. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called children of God. So we're going to parse that a little bit and learn a little bit about what does it mean when Jesus says, blessed are the peacemakers, they shall be called the children of God. First of all, peace is the gift of Jesus to us. He said that at the Last Supper, peace I leave with you, my peace I give you. Not as the world gives do I give to you. That's a little inkling as to what the peace of the Lord is like. It's not the peace that is promised to us by the world. That peace comes when we're completely healthy, when we're financially secure, and when all the circumstances in our lives are completely placid and at ease. Anybody have that kind of peace today? Not many of us. No, it doesn't. That doesn't line up all that well. So the peace of the Lord is not as the world gives. It's not kind of when all the circumstances in our lives are perfect. The peace of the Lord is a share in His victory over sin and death, so that we can go through the difficulties and trials, the ups and downs of our lives, knowing that He is with us and that what's ultimately important has been settled. We have that peace. And that's a good peace to have. And we are called to be peacemakers. What does that mean? Well, let's first of all go all the way back to the Garden of Eden and find out how we lost our peace. And we lost our peace because of sin. Plain and simple. We blew it. And it affected all of our relationships. First, our relationship with God. When the Lord came into the garden where Adam and Eve were, they hid themselves. They were afraid to be near God. So we have this rupture in the relationship with God. That rupture soon became evident in their ruptured relationship with each other. The Lord asked them, why did this come about? The man blamed the woman. She gave me the fruit to eat. The woman blamed the snake. He tempted me to eat it. We see greater reverberations. Their children, Cain and Abel, strive, and Cain kills Abel, fratricide. So we have this fragmenting of relationships and a lack of peace. We have that sort of lack of peace within us. And so we have, drives and difficulties that war within us. We have the desire to do good, but we have the temptation to do bad. And, as one person said, each person is sort of a walking civil war. We have to, in a sense, conquer ourselves to have real peace. And sometimes we don't, or we feel powerless. And finally, there's the relationship with the environment. Right after the sin, as the Lord was sort of saying, these are the effects of what's going to happen. He says, the ground will bring forth thorns and thistles. You will live by the sweat of your brow. And so we have a strained relationship with our environment. It doesn't always work as well as we would like it. And sometimes we contribute to its demise. Well, Jesus called us to be peacemakers. And so that's where we're blessed and happy. That's where we really become God's children, peacemakers. We need to remember that. Most us here are naturally peace lovers. We want it. But we need to go beyond wanting it to, in a sense, making it, creating it. And we begin by looking at those relationships that have experienced fragmenting and brokenness. And so we need to reconnect with God. Well, thank God. He reached out to us. He gave us His Son, Jesus. He became one of us. He sought us out. And so we have peace with God as we accept the mercy of the Lord through baptism, through the sacraments, through our prayer life, and really connecting with the Lord. But we need to go beyond that and really seek to connect with one another. And so we need to become a people who really work at relationships. Not avoid them, not hold grudges, certainly to become more civil toward one another. In our culture, in our time, we need common courtesy again. It's not so common anymore. So to be peacemakers means peace with God, peace with one another, peace within ourselves. So that we really grow in genuine virtue and we win the war within by the help and grace of God. When we're powerless, He's powerful. We rely on Him. And finally, even with our environment, that we're not merely consumers, but caretakers. To be peacemakers. It's not easy to do this stuff. Those who really sought to make peace on earth oftentimes were martyred. St. Paul preached the gospel and brought reconciliation between God and many people in the person of Jesus Christ and died for it. In our own time, Martin Luther King Jr. sought to bring peace among peoples and reconciliation among races, to tear down walls and build bridges, and was assassinated. Those who stand, I think, for moral truth today, for the dignity of one man and one woman in marriage, for moral purity and in sexuality, will experience a measure of perhaps being dragged into the political correctness court, and put on trial. In every area, even those who maybe, there's a growing, thank God, desire to care for our environment, and we seek to recycle more and reuse more and these sorts of things. But even there, sometimes people can say, well, you're going to get in the way of economic progress. Peacemakers will experience trials and difficulties. What do? We're peacemakers anyway. We're peacemakers anyway. Seeking to bring people to the Lord, reconciling one another, growing in virtue, caring for our world. We want to be peacemakers. Let's pray for the courage to be those people and to persevere. It's not a one and done. It takes time and effort. And if we work really hard, maybe we'll see more peace within our world. And if we don't see more peace in our world, hopefully we'll see more peace in us. We'll truly be God's children. And who knows, we'll truly be a happier people.